Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, let me make sure my audio is good because the last time I did this, okay, great. Audio is good. Welcome to episode 301. I'm Joshua Kemble. This is my live stream, and we're going to be working on shading the crazy crowd scene from Not Death But Love, the strange supernatural story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning, which I'm really excited about. We're going to be seeing how far we can get on this page. This is the page that will not die, but I'm really happy with how it's coming out. And so at this point, we're just going to be working on shading. I'll show you guys. I managed to sneak a nice little Frank Salazar shout out in the crowd. So there's a Captain Goggles snuck into one of the one of the bottom panels. We'll see what my editor says regarding that. Hopefully they don't notice. And yeah, I think I'm pretty much just going to be working on comics tonight. Very chill stream. Not planning on spice, although we are overdue for some spice. So hopefully maybe we can have a spicy stream in a little bit. So this is the page that I'm currently working on. I'll turn off my thumbnail. And this is it fully realized. It was kind of a crazy, complicated page. I'm very happy with how the crowd scene came out. Now shading this and coloring this is going to be a beast, but we'll see how far we can get. I think what I'll do is probably stream till maybe like midnight. We'll see. And let's see here. Let me show you guys a little. I snuck Frank Salazar there. I sent him a little picture of it too. But Frank is going to be there in the background, and then he's clapping here. So anyhow, if Frank Salazar manages to catch this at some other time, hopefully that kind of makes his day. So we're just basically going to go through this, and as tedious as it is, just kind of work through shading this entire crazy scene. What I'm going to do, I think at first, I like the idea here. I have like the lighting somewhat established. And I like the idea of not overdoing this area, but I do want to kind of get a little more defining with basically this figure here. So we're going to be basically, I had already started just a little bit of shading here, but we're going to be pulling out the shading on this tiny little figure and then kind of working our way from there. These lights and lamps and stuff like that, these are oil lamps that are kind of lighting the stage. So, but I want to clearly define kind of what's going on here. So I feel like we want to go pretty dark on some of these areas. Okay, so we're just going to go through and kind of work on art and see where everybody's at. I hope everybody is having a good night. It's been a while since I've done a late night stream. But this page has been haunting me. I have a meeting with my literary agent tomorrow. Pretty excited about that. And an author that I really like that they represent. And we're potentially pitching the idea of a collaboration. So we'll see where that goes. Not much I can talk about publicly with that yet, but it'll be fun to see what comes out of that. But yeah, it's kind of weird, but it's like it's been an interesting day where I have just felt pretty overloaded with this comic, honestly, because it's like I'm on page 79. There's quite a few pages to go, but then I also feel like strangely like I'm kind of where I'm supposed to be and working on what I'm supposed to be working on, and that's kind of like a good feeling, kind of a place I haven't been in a while. So it's kind of nice to, it's hard to explain, but it's like when you're working on the thing you think you're supposed to be doing, how much better your kind of mental well-being is, I think. Kind of like working towards the thing you feel you were designed to do for whatever reason. But anyhow, so it's a Monday night. It's going to be interesting to see if anyone shows up and ends up checking this out. Do you like how that's kind of working from a distance? That kind of works pretty well. It's funny how much of this is going to be somewhat blacked out as we kind of work our way through it. But we're just going to do it in a lot of layers. And I think rather than merging the layers as I go, I'll just kind of keep them separate so it's easy to kind of go back and edit if I need to like pull back or increase or decrease shadows. But luckily I have this nice little thumbnail that kind of gives me a map of the lighting that I wanted. So I'm not flying totally blind here, which is why I like to work out values, especially for a complicated panel like this. I like to have the values kind of pre-worked out on my rough. And so that like when it gets down to like this kind of final shading stage, I don't entirely lose the plot of where I was going. So yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot today, just sort of the bizarreness of, I guess, like my belief or whatever, where it's like my belief in God really drives, as corny as it is, it really provides quite a lot of comfort in kind of tumultuous times. Because right now I'm in a pretty weird kind of transitionary stage of my life. Where my career is kind of up in the air. There's potential book things that are up in the air. Everything's kind of up in the air, and I'm very much having to just kind of rest in the faithfulness of God in my life, and it's kind of weird. But it's not. I know this is bizarre to say, but it's like I don't think it's a bad exercise to every once in a while in your life have to kind of rely on that deeper thing, So anyhow, so that's a thing I've been thinking about. It's going to be a weird kind of interesting stream where I think a lot of this is going to be like the old streams. Nice. Frank said, "How do you do, fellow Christians?" Nice. Oh, Frank, did you want to hop on and hang out? I'm working pretty late tonight, so if you wanted to hang out and chat and work on stuff, that'd be cool. Frank sent me a really funny meme. I don't know if that's from the internet, Frank, the meme you made. He made a meme of Tim Pool. I think you made it, Frank, but I don't know, maybe not. let me download it. Hold on. I'll try to show it on stream. You have to tell me if that's something you found or made, Frank. I would be really interested. Well, I guess Frank, you're in the chat, so just let me know if that meme is shareable or if it's something you got from somebody else. I guess if it's something you got from somebody else. Oh yeah. Okay, so Frank said I made it. Okay, I'll show you. So this was Frank, based on I think the commentary that I did on Tim Pool. Hold on, let me put it on the top layer here. Frank made this hilarious meme because I was saying that Tim Pool was like was this I made this joke on stream. I was saying he's like Steve Buscemi, where he's like, "How's it going, fellow youths?" And because like Tim Pool is such a like, I don't know, he just strikes me as kind of a poser. Like he's one of those guys who's like, I'm a skateboarder, I'm a cool guy. And like anyhow, so I made that joke on a couple of my more spicy streams, and Frank made my day by showing me that. So Frank, just to highlight it, you're in two panels, you see. So here you're sitting here, and then boom, clapping. Just happen to have a really rad balcony seat too. So we'll see how much of it ends up covered in shadow. But even if it ends up being very obscured in shadow, Frank, you'll know it was there. And that's the whole fun of it. So I want to kind of darken this up a little bit. Anyhow, Frank, you're more than welcome to hop on if you want to hop on and chat. You don't have to, but it might be fun to have some conversation. Yeah, because like today, I've just been thinking about how I feel weirdly like back when I was working on two stories for the first time in a long time. Like I had taken a really long break from doing comics. Partially because my son was pretty little and I was still figuring out art directing and stuff like that. And then from there, I kind of went through this stage where I didn't know whether I should work on comics anymore. And so like, because it's like crazy time consuming and stuff like that. And I was also relatively a young believer at that point. Like I had been an atheist for a really long period of time. Oh, let's see. Frank said he can hop on. I'll invite him. And again, I'm not planning on going till like the wee hours of the morning, just till about midnight, just so I can hopefully get these tones done. I hope I sent you the link. I sent you the link, Frank, if you wanted to hop on. So anyhow, like the weird thing is, I didn't really know whether I should continue making comics. Like I had no idea. And I felt kind of conflicted about it because it's such a time consuming thing. And I remember praying about it and just feeling like, okay, this is actually something I should be doing. I think this is something God wants me to do. And that's kind of a weird thing to say. But I kept kind of going, well, if this is something you don't want me to do, then take away the desire to do it, just because it's like such a crazy time constraining thing. And then also at the time, I had no idea whether, like, I kind of knew that the story of two stories would be a really hard sell. So I had no idea that it would actually get out there or that any publisher would even touch it with like a 10-foot pole. And so it was just kind of this weird risk to like spend all this time on. And but I kept feeling like no, this is like what I'm supposed to do. So I kept doing it. Kind of faithfully for like 5 years, just showing up, working on these like crazy inks with just the knowledge that it was something I think I was supposed to do. And then weirdly, like very much like I predicted, like I sent it out and had issues like finding publishers. A lot of people couldn't kind of pin it down very easily because it wasn't something that like fits with religious writing or anything like that, because it was pretty real and authentic to life. And it definitely wasn't something that a lot of secular publishers were interested in, because it was going to be a conversion story. And then aside from that, like honestly, any publisher, it's kind of a risk to publish a book that's like, here's a book talking really openly about the things you're not supposed to talk about. But what's weird is a friend of mine, I've told this story before, sent a tweet, and that friend happens to be a writer, and then I got a literary agent from it. And they read my book and they believed in it and they believed in what I was doing and thought it was important and wanted to get me a book deal. And that happened. And then weirdly enough, from that, like my first book also got a deal. And so everything that's happened in comics, you know, that felt like it was like this brick wall that I had been kind of trying to break through for years, just suddenly kind of unwrapped a little bit. And so yeah, so that's been really a cool experience. But now, you know, there's another opportunity tomorrow and a meeting about that, and I weirdly feel a kind of the same way that I felt with like two stories about this, where I feel like this might be why, you know, why I left art direction, you know. Weirdly enough. And it's such a gamble too, because it's like there's no guarantees. But I think life is kind of a bit of a gamble with no guarantees. And I don't know. It's like it's weird, but it's pretty fundamental to what I believe, where you kind of have to just trust in the goodness of the maker. And it's kind of a weird, interesting thing. So I don't know. Like I'm kind of excited about that meeting tomorrow. And weirdly, I feel really good about these pages I've been making, even though they're taking eternity to do. Frank, if you want to give me a thumbs up. All right, Frank. How's it
Hey,
going? I hope that wasn't a bad, I mean, caricature. It's super goofy. It's like
yeah,
just throwing you in back there. But I was like,
yeah, I liked it. I was gonna ask, is that girl next to me, is that Anna?
it could be. Could be any lady you want.
Okay.
But yeah, that could be Anna. I guess actually, weirdly enough, it kind of could be.
Yeah,
Yeah. How you doing, Frank?
I'm good. I'm
Ladies and
alright.
gentlemen, Frank Salazar.
Mm,
Yeah, I was just talking about like I wonder if you've had this, but um just these weird periods of life where you have to just kind of trust God and it's a little confusing where you're like, I'm not sure why, like what's going here, where we're heading here, but you're kind of like, I don't know, it's an interesting time for me in a good way, like, you know, for
yes,
that. So yeah.
yeah, and I've had that. I'm having that right now.
Yeah.
I had a little bit more expenses than I planned on, so I'm very, very short. I'm just waiting for the next month to kick in. So like, oh, okay, have some money again.
Yeah.
But I'm just trusting in God, and He's been bringing me people that are like, hey, let's go out to eat, or hey, here's some food, or hey, let's go do something. Like, okay, cool, I don't have to worry that much.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of weird how that happens, but it's like so easy to like completely lose our shit. You know, I don't know if that
Yeah.
makes sense. You know, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been an interesting thing. Thomas was saying you got to keep faith. I got rejected for several jobs that I was very qualified for. Got to believe there's a reason for it, or else go
Mhm.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like with that, what Thomas is saying, like the whole comics things and drawing and uh, doing that, I've had people tell me like, just, do something else, or that's just a hobby. Don't really uh, put too much into it. But now it's been paying off that where I'm being asked to do. I was asked to do a workshop at my local library,
yeah,
and after that, I went to at the same library a writer's workshop, and they asked me to present there about mini comics, and I sold the little packets that I had left from the workshop where I took a whole bunch and only like I gave out four, but I had like 20 some, and then so I sold I sold the rest.
Nice.
So like oh okay, and so now my name is getting out there. People are knowing more about me. So like oh, it's starting to pay off now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very bizarre how that works. You just kind of have to keep at it.
Yeah.
But when I'm drawing, page 79 of this book and it takes me 3 days, I'm like, it's like, that's kind of where I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where things lead. I'm excited about the possibility. I can't wait to be able to. Frank, this might actually be a writer which is kind of interesting. So, um, I don't know. People in some circles might be familiar with this writer. So, I can't wait to drop who it is at some
Oh,
point.
okay.
But I mean, we'll see if we get a deal, or even get it off the ground. Because like right now, it's just kind of a script that I liked, and we talked about it and gelled pretty well about it. So we'll see like what happens after the literary agent meeting and all that fun stuff.
Nice.
But it does feel like very fortuitous, like, and I never want to make the error of assuming that I know exactly where God's going with something, because that usually ends very badly. But it feels very led in that way, where it's like my literary agent had no reason to introduce us except she thought we'd get along, and we're both repped by the same agency. And then it just happened that like we are like really theologically aligned, like really philosophically aligned, and super interested in like physics and weird stuff. And it's like, okay, so this is like there's a potential of like a real cool collaboration there, that I could get behind, which is kind of exciting. So we'll see. We'll see if it's something that can happen, but that'd be pretty cool. If that's where God's leading, that would be really cool.
Oh,
But
yeah.
who knows?
That's awesome. Yeah. So it's just to meet that one person, or sometimes it's just to get some new knowledge and information, and then move
Yeah.
on to the next. So, yeah. At the writers workshop, and they have like they do little things here and there, so I want to go check out more. But one of the
That's so
writers that
cool. It's cool that
presented.
you have a good library there,
Oh yeah, and that's where we do the Toastmasters. That's actually how I was able to find out about these things, and then just talk to the librarian, and just saying like, oh yeah, like I make comics, I do this, and then that's how the workshop came along. The mini comics workshop came along, and we're actually in talks of maybe doing it again more often.
Nice.
So,
That's cool. I
oh,
hope that becomes a thing, because like I think, I said this when you got the thing, but it's like I can't think of anyone better to lead a zine workshop, honestly, because like you just have palpable enthusiasm for it, and like that goes a long way with teaching, because it's like, kids especially, they can sniff when somebody's insincere. They know. And it's like your sincere kind of love of the thing, I think, is just inevitably going to make you like do really good with those. Jim's here saying it's that moderate guy, Frank. Jim, I'm guessing because it's a Monday, you probably don't want to hop on. But if you do, I can send you a link. Let us know, Jim. Yeah.
oh, and talking about the writers workshop that I went to, and I presented. One of the other authors there, she does like different things, poetry, and she did some children's books, but she was more talking about how you can get it on KDP. And one of the things that she has there, and I want to buy her book. Well, I could have bought it there for $1 less, but like I was like what I was making there from selling the little comics. That's what I had, cash in hand. So like,
that's the
I was like,
conundrum of doing like
yeah,
conventions or anything. It's like hard not to spend everything you make because it's
yeah,
like
because well, I could use this for something else or buy this book, and then I'll have nothing for it. But I'm gonna buy it on Amazon. But it's a KDP book, kind of like Scott's. So it
oh,
actually
cool.
got me thinking about Scott's because it was making comics and comic strips. So she had little sections where you could do uh, uh, more focused, like it had everything like stuff that Scott does, but it was like a little section of this. This is
Yeah.
how you can make some comic panels. Okay, make some comic strip panels. Make some draw your characters here. So that I like that. And some of her, I mean, it was okay. I mean, and she won an award for it. So
Oh, wow.
I can say like, oh, the art's not that great, but people are buying it
Hmm.
and kids are liking it and using it, and she just won an award for it. So like, oh, okay, this is cool, and I kind of want to do something like that as well.
Hmm.
And I like how she had it, and yeah, I can do like, oh, draw. This is how you draw Captain Goggles, or just draw something, it's a character, but it'll be, oh, this is how I draw Captain Goggles. So, and
That'd be good for
value.
workshops too, because you could have the book there for the workshops, and it
And yeah,
could kind of go through like your almost like curriculum.
yes, and that's what I was doing with the mini comics. But I think it would be better to do it like that. And that's what she does. She'll go and teach in schools and stuff, and she'll take the books, and people will buy them,
Hmm.
and the kids will start using them right then and there.
Yep.
So one of since I showed her the mini comics, and it's something I was thinking of, uh, and you know how Scott does the page templates. I was thinking, oh, I could do page templates of an 8-page mini comic.
Hmm.
But on seeing her do it, I was like, it would be better to do it like, okay, you can draw your character, use these pages to draw your character,
Hmm.
use these to plot out a story. Okay, put it all together in the mini comic format, and
Yeah.
then so and this is just something I was thinking, but when she saw my mini comics, oh, I can do this. Teach it to the kids and sell, or make some and sell them for like a buck, like, yeah, like,
Hmm.
do it. That's what it's for. So it was cool that she got inspired by something I did. That I'm thinking like, well, a lot of people know how to do this, but
Yeah.
um, she got inspired, and I got inspired by her. And I also dropped Scott's name.
Nice.
So maybe,
Scott, you
hopefully
got a
there's
hype man out there every
so
day.
hopefully he got some sales from that. But
Actually,
yeah,
Jim's got a really good question. He said, "How has Toastmasters changed you?"
uh, it's well, for one, I was able to do the workshops because of Toastmasters, because now I'm able to speak more, and I go out more publicly to different events. And if I have the chance to talk, I'll go up and talk. So it's putting me out there a bit more, or I'm able to
Yeah,
put myself out there, and I can just talk about anything.
that's
That's it.
awesome. Have you ever looked into the moth?
The, mo- the
So there's
Mothman.
this. I think it's mostly in Chicago, but I think it's like because I think it was something that used to air on WBEZ or whatever the place that does like This American Life. Um, but it's a show, and I knew this guy on Threadless named Nestor Gomez, and he used to come up with like T-shirt ideas. He even like he and I collaborated on one time, but he was more of like a writer kind of guy, and he got really into storytelling just in public,
Okay.
kind of like a Toastmasters type thing. And he started going to these events like the Moth events, which I think are global now. So there might be one in like Texas, but you
Okay.
can kind of sign up, and then it's almost like a storytelling fest where everybody tells their story, and then there's like one person who kind of wins at the end of the night or whatever, who had told the best
Hmm.
story. But everybody's kind of honing their craft, like telling these different
Yeah.
stories. And now, like, that's his job. He just tells stories. That's like all he does, which is kind of cool. He's written stuff and stuff like that, but he's a really masterful storyteller. And he didn't start out like that. He had like a speech impediment, all sorts of stuff. And then like the moth, like, kind of helped him out. So I wonder
Yeah.
if Toastmasters is kind of similar to that. Because the only Toastmasters I was familiar with, I think like my sister or something might have been in Toastmasters, like in high school or something. But I
Oh,
hadn't really, I don't know much about it. So like, how do you go about, now I want to
so,
know everything about Toastmasters. Tell me everything.
well, good. And in
Or are you
another,
allowed to talk about Toastmasters? Is it like
I
one of those?
am. It's not like the Fight Club. I can talk about it. It's
Oh, okay.
promoted to talk about it.
Nice. You don't
So
have to wear like a fez when you show up and like secret handshake and ritual
no,
sacrifice to get in there. No. Okay,
not yet.
good. Again.
And one of the great things about the Toastmasters that I can tell people about is that I think it was like 8 months ago when I joined in, and so I went in, you know, very quiet, sort of just looking down and talking low because now I'm in public talking about things, so I'm like very timid. Well, fast forward 8 months later, I am now the president of my club.
Nice.
They voted me in uh, last month, or no, the end of the month before, and it started in July. So July was my first month. Now I'm going to enter my second month as being president. So that's something I can say, like, that's how it's changed me. I'm getting more confident in talking and being put in these leadership positions. So what Toastmasters is, it's like how, like the storytelling, and anyway, you can use it however you want, like whatever your goal is. So if you want to be a better storyteller, you have that platform to tell your stories, and they'll critique you. It's mainly it's speeches, being able to speak in public, give speeches. There's contests about giving speeches, and I've entered the table topics contest, which I made it from the club level to the area level,
Okay.
and I got beat out at the area level, but I made it that far, which
Oh, wow.
I was still happy that I was able to do it twice.
So what's table topics? Like, they kind of give you a random topic and then you have to,
Yes,
on the spot, just speak about it?
yes. So that's something that we do in each meeting. So you have your speakers. Someone's going to give a speech. It's one or two, and we also have the table topics. And someone is picked up, like they're asked a question, and you have a couple of seconds to come up with something, and you just speak. Well, a lot of people speak from their own experiences. So, and I like those because at the spur of the moment I can, like, okay, I'll do a 2 minute speech on, on whatever. This last last Wednesday, just so happened it was a question about Canada.
Oh, nice. And you're just like, do I know things about Canada, or do I know things about, you're like pulling out your maple syrup from like the
I
inside
did.
coat pocket. Like, you
Well,
take a swig.
I didn't
All
take
right.
it with me, but I did talk about maple syrup.
Okay. I'm
And
surprised, Frank. I thought you would have like a flask with maple syrup.
I ran out. I have my little bottles in the. I was like extra organizing them today. I was like, I put my
Nice.
bottles here.
I
But
feel
they're
like
empty.
you need a maple syrup like flask that you can keep in your coat
I
pocket.
was looking for one online. I think I was showing it to Philip Chandler, because I think I was on Redbubble, and there's like a flask with like just a Canada leaf on it. Like, this can be my maple syrup flask.
It'd be so funny because you could go through like a security checkpoint and they're like, what's in this? Like, you're like, it's just syrup. They're like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. And then they like open it. Oh, it is. Okay, never mind. Like, You're like, don't get between a man and his syrup. That's awesome though. So what did you talk about syrup, or did you talk about more than that?
First, like it was about. I think the question was like, do I know where if what's that? Niagara Falls. If it's in, do I know if it's in America or in Canada? And it's like, well, I know it's in Canada. And I said the reason I know it's in Canada is because I saw it in like a TV show. I think Superman. No, Quantum Leap. I mentioned Quantum Leap.
Oh, nice.
And it was an episode of Canada because I pulled out when honeymooners go on the to the Grand Canyons and they used to take the train. It was called the Honeymoon Express, and the reason I know that is from an episode of Quantum Leap called Honeymoon Express.
I love it. That's a good way to do it too, because then you also get to talk about Quantum Leap, which is like,
and that went into because I ended up doing two. So from there, I said, if you ask me about maple syrup, I could talk about maple syrup. So okay, well, let's talk about maple syrup, and that's what I talked about my love for maple syrup and how I kind of have to like put it away for now because it was affecting my sugar, but I really love maple syrup. The second question was about the writer's strike and the actor strike.
Yeah.
And how it's affecting me. And I was like, well, me personally, not that much, and I don't really watch TV, but I'll watch old shows like Quantum Leap, and I'll listen to my favorite Quantum Leap podcast called the Quantum Leap Podcast. So I got to talk about stuff that I enjoy, aside from comics and drawing and writing. So I was like, so I thought that was cool.
That's great.
But just being able to have a little conversation about stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
For the moment, that's what Toastmasters helps you with, and just doing speeches and talking about it in public more.
Yeah, and like building your confidence up for it too, because like the more you practice it, the less scary it is, you know. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool. That's rad. So how would, like Thomas was saying, he was kind of curious. He's always wanted to know what they actually did. So how does one become part of Toastmasters? Do you just look up like local Toast? Like, how did you get turned on to it?
I had asked my mentor, Orlando Salinas. He mostly focused on helping men, be more, just take on that responsibility of being better fathers, husbands, and leaders. And I've been going to his mentorship class for 7 or 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him once, how do you become a leader without a title? And he said, like, well, why don't you try being a public speaker? And then he told me about the Toastmasters. He's like, because he used to go there, and he used to compete in contests and things like that. So like, oh, okay. So like, I went. He looked it up. He said, send me the information, and it was like, it's like right here where I live.
That's
so
awesome.
I just go walking. So it's like 14 minutes away. So like, and it's.
So are you gonna get like involved in politics? You totally. If you do, you've got my vote. I mean, I'll. Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't thought about politics ever. I mean, it's like, I guess that could be a good avenue because they help you speak in public with confidence. And some of the speakers I've seen like are really great speakers. Like they could be good politicians. But that's how I got into it. So you just look up in your area.
Mm-hmm.
But what is a cool thing now is that a lot of them are doing hybrid meetings, or you can hop on a Zoom meeting. So we do have people from Iowa that every week through Zoom, they're there.
That's awesome.
And And I know our Zoom link is the same, so I just grab it because I also send out the email
Mhm.
where it's I always include there.
Oh, that's so cool.
So I mean, yeah, yeah. I know our meeting is Wednesday noon Central Time. Uh, but they have like different meetings. I know there's some at 7 p.m. and some earlier. So it just depends on the club when they want what time that they chose. So, yeah.
I think that's great. I mean, it also just seems like a nice way to kind of meet people locally too, you know? Like I don't know. That's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, like I met some interesting people there. That I like talking to, I like hanging out with.
Yeah, I think that does sound cool too for people who might be interested in just getting in really interesting conversations with people, you know? Um,
Oh,
yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. Well, so what are you working on nowadays? Or, you know, tonight or whatever?
well, right now I'm just doing some doodling on the computer. But
Nice.
earlier I was making a GM screen cardboard, so I was just putting some extra touches on it.
I
Uh,
saw that on Facebook. Are you gonna start doing role playing?
that's the plan. I still don't know that much about it, but I'm gonna do some solo role playing so I can get
Nice.
more familiar with the system that I'm using. It's actually this one, which you can actually get the PDFs out for free. You can buy this on Amazon at cost, or just like a little bit at cost. I think the person only gets like a few pennies.
That's
The
awesome.
Basic Fantasy, the fourth edition, which is actually more revisions. It's the same one, but they revise. Uh, and I think they just added the new license and a few more monsters.
Nice. That
But
sounds
I'm
fun.
yeah, I've talked to like on Discord to some of the uh, players and there's a YouTuber that I was watching and he said, "Oh yeah, I play basic fantasy." And then I found out he's into that server. So we just talk and share ideas.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
But one of the latest thing I did is I was looking up STL files because I wanted to print out like a little figurine and I found one for an owl bear claw, and I was
Awesome.
gonna have it 3D printed, but then I thought, you know what, I could probably make it because I have some clay. So I made my own,
Oh,
and I
that's
turned it into
awesome.
like a little dagger. So it's a prop. It is clay, hardened
That's
clay. But
awesome though. That sounds super fun. I haven't role played in forever. I would be so rusty because I think the last time I role played was like maybe eighth grade or ninth grade. So
okay.
it's been a long time, but it was fun, you know, when I was younger. And honestly, I still have a fondness for it, so I'm like, I would totally be interested. You should do okay once you get in the flow of it and you get your GM skills on. It would be funny if on Roll for Tarako you got all the art community people you know to like each show up and do like a role playing game. Like
That would
that
be
would be
cool.
hilarious and
That would be
awesome.
doable, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Especially if you're like, oh, hey, you can draw your character, and people doing
I love it. Oh my gosh, this is a beast of a page. It's why you had to be on it. You see, because this is like this is going to be one of those pages, and I'm like, Frank's going to be there, right there. Yeah, I love it. We could just call that like the Tarako. Like that's literally the little Tarako space where they get to sit.
it. Oh yeah,
You know, after that's the Toastmasters space. You know, it's where
yeah.
all the important politicians sit. That'd be it is interesting to think about like public speaking as a potential, you know, revenue source or like way to
Mhm.
kind of do things. It's an interesting field, because it's like, yeah, how do you get into public speaking? That's an interesting one. That's kind of
Yeah,
cool.
and some few friends from church asked me when I tell them about Toastmasters and the workshops and public speaking. Oh, is there any money in it? I was like, there could be. I mean, right
Yeah,
now I I do
but
it
it
because
sounds
I'm
like something you're just kind of pursuing because you like enjoy it.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like there could be because with the workshops, like I mean, I do these. I mean, I did one and one. Another one was impromptu, but like I do that for the community.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to hire myself out, I would do more locally, just like that, get the
Yeah.
experience, and I'm like, okay, now I have a few under my belt. I can go,
Hmm.
uh, do, book me for a seminar or something.
Yeah.
And something I want to do is do like classes, so that could be like, well, if you want me to help you, come up with ideas for your comic,
Yeah.
teach you some basic things about making comics, something a little bit more that we didn't cover today, you can book a private class
Hmm.
with two or three people, so like a small group,
Yeah.
or depending on, but yeah, like and make money that way.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and like, honestly, getting that kind of workshop experience is good too, because then you can also just talk about like, when I did this, I got this many people there, this many people were engaged, this many, it like
Yeah.
helped the library or wherever in this way, and like be able to have that kind of like almost like case study, and that'll lure people too. I think
Hmm.
it's a really cool idea.
Oh yeah. And
I'm
it's
kind of
funny.
excited to hear about it.
One of the sales that I made was because in the little packs,
Hmm.
I included a truffle seal stamp. So
Nice,
someone saw it and they like wax seal stamps. So like, oh, it's a really cool idea. So they bought a pack there, and
nice.
and they were asking me about it. So like I get to talk about comics. I get to talk about wax seals. I get to
Hmm.
talk about stuff that I like. So yeah.
Yeah, and I like, again, I think you have like a real passion for it, so I think that like kids would get really into, like I just really do think like you could do a lot of good with workshops, like, for kids and for adults and for just kind of like getting people to kind of be creative.
Yeah.
um yeah, I think that would be really fun.
Yeah. Too.
That's so cool. It was fun to see that you did that workshop. It was really neat to see. I'm glad you sent us like some video of it too. It was fun to see, And your talk, like the fact that you got to do that talk at the writers thing. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even expecting that, but I just happened to take a bag with all my mini comics, and I was like, "Oh, I'll take these just in case." And like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna speak. Can I put these out?" Like, "Yeah, sure." Like, okay. So do.
That's awesome. That's rad. Um let's see here. Okay, how is this working? It's kind of coming together. It's coming together. It's taking a while. This is the page that will not die, Frank. This page will not die. Oh, Philip said just got back from seeing Oppenheimer. So I have not been to a movie in forever, but I really want to see that movie because I'm a nerd. And so uh, I want to know, Philip, what did you think? Good or bad? Don't blow anything about the plot. I know, spoiler. I know there's probably a nuclear bomb that's created. I'm just wild guess there, but um, oh, nice. Philip said it was a blast. Nice. Jim, I think appreciated that well placed joke. Yeah, I want to see it. I want to see it, so I'm gonna check it out on Friday. That'll be like the first movie I've seen in the theater. in like
Yeah.
years.
Apparently, the Barbie movie and Oppenheimer are like at the same time. So people have been calling it the Barbenheimer. So like they'll go see Barbie and then they'll go see Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I have no interest in the Barbie movie, but I have no disinterest in it. I'm like, okay. But Oppenheimer, like that just sounds super interesting to me, you know. However, I will say, I've heard some people that have said some pretty cool things about the Barbie movie, so I'm like, maybe it is good. I don't know.
I've
Yeah.
heard kind of mixed, so I kind of want to check it out just to see because I don't want to spoil it, but like it sounds interesting. So like okay, like I just want to see it by myself, so I might just
Jim
with my
said I
daughter.
saw Oppenheimer today, not the movie, but my friend Manny Oppenheimer. Nice. What do you call it when Oppenheimer is choking at a restaurant?
I don't know.
The Oppenheimlich. I'm here all night, guys. This is what you guys get when I don't do spicy streams. You get really bad dad jokes and chill Josh just working on comics. I want to show off Frank's meme real quick, and then Frank, if it's okay with you, I might play a trailer and get some water real quick. But first, I want to show this off again one more time. This is a meme that Frank made based on a joke that I made a couple streams ago. Here, I'll make it big so everybody can see it. See that? It's amazing. It's Tim Pool being cool Tim Pool. So anyhow, thanks Frank for sending me that. That made my day. All right, we're gonna play the trailer for. Let's see here. Let's play Jacob's Apartment, and then when we come back, we'll rock and roll for another, I don't know, hour or so or two. So, all right, here it is. Speak clearly, it seems that only in dreams can these things we've seen and walk around breathing I don't know the part to play in this heart of mine. There's dissonant things, they split at the seams. All right, that was the trailer for Jacob's Apartment. Let me put the music because we're at the hour mark. So we're going to do a re-intro with Frank Salazar. Are you ready, Frank?
Woo!
Okay, let's do this.
Let's get ready to crumble!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're tuning in to episode 301 of my live stream. We're joined by Frank Salazar of Salazar Art Nation, Roll for Karaku, and Karaku Creative Cast, and we're working on comics. So I hope you guys are working on creative projects yourselves. We're going to have wacky conversations, and yeah, there you go. Okay. If you guys haven't yet, consider hitting that like button now. That actually helps a lot. And also, Frank, real quick, since I played a commercial, in all fairness, you should probably let people know where they can find your mini comics and such goods.
All right. You can find my channel on Salazar Art Nation, and there should be a link in there somewhere for my link tree at Turaco Comics. It would take you to my Etsy store, Salazar Art Nation on Etsy, and you can check out what I have there. I don't think I have any mini comics there yet, but I have 2 packs left, so I can post those up.
Nice.
But I got some sketch cards, and if you want to reach out, there's something that you want a custom sketch card, or you want to see what I got left of mini comics, I'll just sell it to you directly.
I love it. I love it. So, Frank, you've been up to Toastmasters. How else? What else have you been up to lately? I know you made a GM, like a really rad GM. Like, what is that called again? I'm blanking out on what that's called. It's like the shield, I guess.
The GM screen or
The
DM
screen.
screen.
Thank you. My goodness.
Let's see. I made a mini one, and I made this mini one.
Nice.
And I put the seals on it, and I bought a bunch of binder clips. That's why I have them here, so I can put like notes and stuff.
I love it.
And the bigger one, it's in the kitchen. I was just looking for the sheets that I have that I'm gonna put in there. But yeah, and it's cardboard, and I use a lot of duct tape.
Nice. Jim came up with a new Oppenheimer riff saying "Breakin' 3 Poppenheimer." Nice. I'm just thinking about Robert Oppenheimer doing poppin' locks. Like, what are you doing? This is fire, man, fire. Anyhow, yeah. So, like, how are things treating you, and like, what's kind of the next thing you want to make? I'm kind of curious.
Well, I am working on a mini comic I had started in the writer's workshop, because they were workshopping like a possible idea. I think one of the writers there is working on this like murder mystery.
Oh, cool.
Having to do with a food truck, and so the guy that was leading it said like, well, let's see if we can come up with something. So we all kind of brainstormed like what kind of story that would be. And the way they were describing it, I was like, I could do this as a one-shot mini comic where it wouldn't be connected to my regular stuff I do, because it's about a serial killer. It kind of sounded like Dexter the way it was being pitched, but I don't think that's the story that she was doing. That's just what was coming up in the brainstorming, where it's a serial killer that he owns a food truck, so that's why he's able to travel and find his victims, but he hunts bad people. And they were kind of throwing out like, oh, he hunts other food truck people. Now, like, no, I'm thinking he hunts like really, really bad people that are on types of registries. So that's kind of the twist I was taking. That's why like I can't do this as something that I would, hey kids, check this out. But it would be something where like, nice. Okay, I can do something a little bit darker, just kind of get my feet wet in that, but still kind of like not so dark, but like, yeah, just trying something. And
that sounds interesting. It's it kind of reminds me of like Spawn. You know, there's like a Spawn issue that has like a psychotic ice cream man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so something like that. I was thinking like a 4-page comic, and I can put it out there.
Nice. It also sounds fun to write, because you could have him do like a lot of food puns when he's doing his murder.
Well, that's gonna be like the way I'm doing it is kind of like he's kind of like introducing himself. So he's like, uh, I look for the finest ingredients, and
Oh,
and
nice.
while he's on there, he's searching certain sites that have registries, and like, oh, this one has been elusive,
Yeah,
and then so
I kind of dig that.
so I want to give too much because. But yeah, and then, yeah. So I want to do that and kind of like put it out there and show it to the guy that does the workshop because I joined the Facebook group. Like, hey, look, I finished it. This is what it is, and
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be an interesting. It sounds like a big deviation from the previous
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and that's what like I still keep my morals, but
Hmm.
I'm not gonna like just gore, but just like oh that's interesting. Like I want to try something like that. So like okay, um,
Yeah,
uh, to see how that kind of looks.
yeah, that sounds pretty rad, actually.
Yeah.
Man.
And what I was doing in the workshop when they started was they did this exercise where like you write for I think like 10 minutes and they're like,
Uh-huh.
all right, whatever you want, like what you did today, what you had for breakfast. And I was thinking, well, I'm gonna use this to advance my Captain Goggles and Masculine story. Um, so I did it as a kind of like a little recap of issue one, and then starting into issue two,
Hmm.
where, where I'm even thinking like if I just like redo it, this could be kind of like the intro to the whole thing. So, but yeah, so where I just have Captain Goggles kind of described because I don't go into it in issue one, his life before he met Mask Woman,
Hmm.
and so I do have him kind of like he's like not that long ago I was sitting behind a desk shuffling papers, grading papers for students. Now I'm writing a purple dinosaur with a masked woman, and
Nice.
so you get a little bit of backstory, and then and so I was thinking that'll be good to show his some of his past, some of his origins,
Yeah.
and then it goes into like okay the adventures continued and then they meet the next the inventor and stuff like that. So
I love it. That actually sounds really cool. And it'll give like, people get like more connected to characters too when they have like the stakes, and they kind of know a little more about them. And so I think that's a really smart idea to give them a little more backstory and stuff so people can get real connected.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that stuff I had already, but I just didn't put it in the comic
Yeah.
because I was going to introduce it later. And one of the critiques I got because I sent the PDF to someone who writes draws comics, so like and he said like I'm gonna give you an honest critique. Like, go ahead, that's what I want. That's and he said like, well, it sounds like it's just masculine, yay, and Captain Goggles is something that is there. Like we don't know that much about it. Like okay, that's a fair critique. Uh, and because I was thinking like that stuff I was gonna handle in the second issue, but like now I know like okay, that's something to work on and address. So next time I do something, it's all there and not like, well, I'm gonna save this for later. I
Yeah.
can do it.
I th- I think one of the hardest critiques I got for a script once that I can't remember which one it was for, but it was like they just kept asking me, "Well, why should I care?" And I was like, "Oh man, that's tough." you know, because I'd explain the plot and they'd be like, "Yeah, but why do I care?" And I'm like, "Okay, it was really hard." But then it made me realize like I needed to build out like more of the character so people had a reason. Um Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's one of the harder ones. Like I try to ask that every once in a while. It's tough because you don't want to like totally stifle your own writing because like again like if you ask that question too much you could just end up with like a no one cares and like give up or something. That's the last thing we need as writers is like to forget why people would care. But it is a good question to ask where you're like, okay, why should people care like if this character is doing this thing? And it's like, okay, well that's where it's like, okay, well they should care because this happened, or they should care because they're connected to the character because of this, or you know what I mean? And you can kind of build it productively. But man, just similar thing from to what you're describing was like one of my earlier critiques where somebody was like, I just have no reason to care. And I was like, oh
Yeah.
no. Yeah. Mm. But that sounds really cool. I love the idea of building out his story so people are more invested, they're more connected with the character, they have more like backstory and reason. That's awesome. That
Yeah.
sounds really cool.
Yeah. And I kind of like just like writing it out as a story
Yeah.
and then adapted it from there. Because with the story part, like, well, this could be a book, like a novel,
Yeah.
the novelization of Captain Cox.
Nice. I love it. I feel
Yeah.
like
Oh, and I
for
wrote a
me
haiku also because I was
a
talking to
haiku.
poets, and so I wrote a little haiku there about Salazar Nation Comics, which I think actually I have it here.
Nice.
So yeah, it was a good workshop. Got a lot of ideas.
That's awesome. Haikus are fun. I always forget the syllables though. I always have to just like Google it to remember what the syllable structure is. It's like, what is it? Oh, I can't even remember.
And that was the one thing we were going over. I think it's 353.
Okay.
Well, I thought I had it.
Hold on. Let me look it up. Syllable structure. Haiku. 3 lines. First line 5 syllables, 7 and then 5.
Okay, that's what it was.
5 7 5 and then 3 lines. Nice. Yeah, those are like that's always one of those ones. It's fun to do though.
Yeah. And
I
I had
bet you that some guys I know that can freestyle would probably be really good at haikus because they can like count syllables like subconsciously. Whereas for
yeah,
me,
like
it's like
it took me a little bit because like okay, how many?
I have to do even
I
when
was
I
doing
write lyrics and stuff. I write I'll write with like dots for each syllable. And then sometimes to figure out syllables, I just use that old trick of like hold your hand under your mouth, and then whenever your mouth hits your hand, there's a syllable.
oh okay.
So you're like,
I
I
was
am
doing
blah blah.
the clapping. I was
Nice
doing
clapping works. Yeah,
so I was doing that. So it probably looked weird on there, like okay.
but if I'm writing lyrics, I'll just put dots above the word for the amount of syllables in it, so I can be like, okay, there's 7 dots here. There's 6 dots here, so the next line needs to have 7 and 6 or something like So weird. It's a weird thing to do. I want to hear your haiku. Do you have it?
That's what I was looking for because I had it in my bag, but I think I took it out. I thought it was this notebook.
I
Or
feel
this
like you
bag.
should do a YouTube video where you read the haiku and it's in like a park with like birds and you're saying it in like a really chill, like relaxed kind of Zen style.
If I can find it.
Jimmy said there should be an Artcasters breaking down why people should care when it comes to projects. I love that topic.
That would be good.
It is a good one.
Also,
Like it's
so
a weird tip, with writing where it's like you want to give people a reason. You know.
So Jim and I are gonna do a show in a couple of weeks, and
Nice.
and I kind of want to like freestyle it. Um, so that could be something that we can talk about.
What are you guys gonna do a show about?
Well, like mostly I just wanted to hang out with Jim and talk about stuff, but I wanted to get his uh, thoughts on the Mexican culture in comics and stuff like that. So,
Oh, awesome.
and then from there, whatever whatever comes to our minds.
That's cool. You should have Hav on sometime too.
Yeah, like I had him on the truck once. Um, but yeah.
Oh yeah,
Should-
that's right. You did do a Hav one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Big Uncle Hav. We all like Hav. It's funny, Hav is so well known too. Like my buddy Chris, anytime we have Hav on, he's like, "Oh, it's Hav." Like it's just like who I don't even think I introduced them. I think they just met separately
Oh
at like
wow.
a convention or two. He's just one of those guys like everybody knows. Jim is like that too, weirdly enough, where you'll like meet another artist in LA and I'll be like, "Yeah, my friend Jim," and they're like, "Jim, wait." And I kind of explain, "Oh, he's like this animator." They're like, "Oh, Luhan?" It's so funny how that works.
My friend James, Little Jan. I'm going to check the kitchen if I left my notebook there. I'll be right back.
No worries. How is everybody doing in the chats? Hopefully you guys are doing well. Probably doing better than me, guys. I'm having to shade a crowd of 1,000,000 people here. Okay, I'm gonna start on the crowd in a second. I just want to get this little front area behind the heads real quick, and then we'll kind of see where we go. But this is coming along, so I just want to have a little bit of that for the crowd, and then we'll do individuals in a second, which I'm kind of excited about. I'd love to hear what everybody who's watching is working on. And if you haven't yet, now's a really good time to hit that like button.
And just in time because I found my notebook with the haiku on it.
I love that notebook. Is that like a mini? Oh, that's
Mhm.
awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I have where is it? I bought like a little stack at the Dollar Tree. That's why I mixed them up. This one I have my RPG stuff,
Huh?
and this is where I'm gonna start doing my poetry. So I have one here.
I just love that because I used to use those just because they have such a there's like a very nostalgic connection I have with those notebooks.
Oh yeah,
But I didn't
like
know they had mini ones. That's really cool.
yeah. I also have some regular size ones that I just bought recently from our store here, HEB. But I like these mini ones because I can just take it with me and like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why I like those field notes books so much too, Yeah.
All right, so I'll read my haiku about
Okay. Here,
myself.
here, here. I'm gonna make you full screen. Okay. You guys ready? Prepare for this beautiful haiku. Wait. Let me see if I can give you a soundtrack too.
Okay.
Let's see. I want something. Okay, this is called daydreaming. Does this work?
Let's see.
There we go. Yeah, that works.
All right. Salazar Comics, telling stories with drawings, making cool comics.
I love it. You guys got an original haiku. I mean, come on. That was amazing. That was nice.
Thank you. I want to do more.
There's a comic my son's really into called Cat Kid Comic Club. and it's like a
Oh,
spin-off of
Dogma.
Dogman, but it's like these kid cats that are doing, like, not kid cats, it's like actually like a fish school. There's like this fish character that's like, it's complicated, but anyhow, it's like this school of fish that are learning, and then there is Cat Kid or whatever in there too, going to school with these fish, and they're all making mini comics.
Oh, nice.
And there's like kids in it that make haiku comics, which is kind of awesome. Like, so it's kind of a cool thing because it's like a way for that writer and artist to I think it's Dave Pilkey or whatever, to like do just a variety of styles. Like, so he'll do stuff that's like sculpture or like cardboard cutouts and like all sorts of really cool stuff, including haikus. So anyhow, your haiku reminded me of that.
Nice. That sounds like a good idea, doing a haiku comic. Or
Yeah,
putting it in there.
my son is the reason I've read Dogman, and I'm a big fan of Dogman. Like, I actually think they're really great comics. Yeah, really good comics for kids too. You know.
Yeah, my I don't know if they still do, but my kids used to read it.
Nice. Jimmy says just working on a zine comic. Nice. Oh, I'm reading Piers Anthony to my son, which I'm really stoked about. I used to be really obsessed with Piers Anthony. He's like this sci-fi, well, not sci-fi, a fantasy author who wrote this series called Xanth.
Oh, okay.
And so I've started reading them to Ben, and it's pretty awesome because I haven't read them since like 6th grade. You know, we read the Hobbit, and then I was like, I wonder if we could read this. It was
Oh, wow.
partially curiosity on my own end too, because I haven't read it in years. You know, so I was like, I wonder if this is still good. Yeah, we've been enjoying them.
I was reading the Chocolate War to my son. It probably wasn't a good idea.
What was it?
The Chocolate War.
What is that?
You haven't read it? I haven't. I didn't read it to my son, but I do have the book for it. But it's about these. I guess like they're like high school kids, where they have to sell chocolates to like raise money for stuff. But there's this bully, and he's like the hierarchy of the school.
Oh, okay.
And so he makes like these kids do stuff, and like one is his lackey, uh, and but he like that's why it's called the chocolate war, because he causes like a whole like people pitting people against each other.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so and there's a sequel beyond the chocolate war.
Wait a
Yeah.
minute.
So
Was this like this is like almost like the same era as, I think it's the same age range as like How to Eat Fried Worms?
uh,
Am I
maybe like
crazy? I think because it's ringing a bell. I think I have read The Chocolate War a long time ago.
yeah. Well, I read it in high school. So yeah. So it's probably the same range or like Hobbit, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
but yeah,
awesome. Hobbit's like good. Lord of the Rings, I think, is a little intense for my son's age right now. The Hobbit was like perfect for him, though. You know, it's like the Hobbit's like just, it's so good for kids. You know, that's like, I
hmm
don't know, it's a good story, and he really dug it. So,
yeah, I like the Hobbit.
Thomas
Yeah.
said Chronicles of Immortality. Nice.
Just where I have my copy.
I'm gonna have to think about that for an Artcasters topic because that's a pretty good one. I didn't even think of that for like a writing topic, you know, especially.
Why your work doesn't? Why should I care?
Yeah, like just that being a really important question to try to answer for people with your art, you know, whether it's with comics or illustrations, you know.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good topic.
Yeah. Because like a lot of good concepts will totally answer that, you know. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, one thing I want to work on is a elevator pitch for my comic. Someone told me to like, well, what's it about? And I'm like, well, I don't know, like, it's about this guy wears goggles and this woman wears a mask. It's like I didn't know how to describe it, and like I was like what will be the story or the pitch? And the best I did was, yeah, it's these two people, they start a journey, and uh, it begins an adventure, and they're like, okay, but what's it about? Like, I was like, oh man, so it's like that. Why should I care?
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, like
Yep.
I don't know what it's about. Like I don't
it's
know how to describe it.
it's crazy when like I found this true to like writing and oddly enough like marketing as well, where it's like you kind of have to answer like the age old questions of just like who, what, where, when, and why.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's actually a lot harder than than I remember half the time. I'm awful at pitching, but it's like I think if you at least in the interior of your story explain that, or in the interior of your art, then like it does a lot of the lifting for you, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one to remember, you know, because we all
Oh,
care about our own stuff, you know. Let's see,
yeah.
how does this look, and how am I comparing to my map? Pretty good. It needs to get a little darker as it goes back. Okay. This is the most chaotic page on the planet. Yeah, that's funny. So they were just kind of like asking you like, yeah, but like what's the story?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like helpful but hard, not the easiest thing, you know? Cuz it can be really frustrating. We're like just cuz it's cool, you know?
Yeah.
Like I was like, yeah, but why? Like a little kid, like why is the sun hot? And you're like, well, because it's, you know, and you start explaining it and they're like, why? And you're like, okay, this is getting really really tough. Let me pull out Google. Let's figure it out. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thomas was meaning incarnations of immortality, the Piers Anthony. Okay. Nice. Nice, Thomas. Now I feel like the Tim Pool meme, except it's me talking about like, hey there, fellow nerds. I'm like holding Piers Anthony books.
Yeah. I had done one with Steve Buscemi where I just grabbed the template, but I put hello fellow how do you do fellow RPGers, and I sent it to
Nice.
the Discord group that I'm in.
That's hilarious.
And I have made where Steve Buscemi is wearing a shirt that says TTRPG.
That's badass. That's awesome. Okay, let me have this get a little darker as it goes back. So we're going to do just a wash of gray over these characters so it kind of gets darker as it goes back. So I want the illusion. It's an illusion, Michael. I miss Arrested Development. That was a funny show. Did you ever get into Arrested Development, Frank?
No, I think I had started it, but it was around a time where I think it was on cable, right?
Yeah.
So like we didn't have cable anymore. So like
Oh, okay.
so there are shows that I was into and I was watching, but we couldn't afford cable anymore. So like, oh, okay, well then that's like I wonder what happened. So,
Yeah, it's like I never saw it on TV. I remember back when they had DVDs, we bought like the DVDs of it.
okay.
And then I think it's on Netflix now. I think It's still on there. But it's a pretty funny show. There's a magician character in it that's particularly hilarious.
I've heard of it. Like I heard people quote it, and
Yeah.
so like, oh, okay. And I was like, I wonder if that's the show I had started to watch, and I never got beyond a couple of episodes because I didn't have cable anymore. And so.
Yeah, there's a scene where this magician, somebody says, "Oh, that was a cool magic trick," and he's like, "It's an illusion, Michael. A trick is what a whore does for money." He's all offended that it was called a magic trick instead of an illusion. It's pretty good. But it's a funny show. One of my favorite bits in it, actually, that would crack you up is there's these recurring scenes where like a character will like walk down the street depressed, and then it starts playing the Charlie Brown theme song. And there's one point where they've done it like 3 or 4 times, you know, where it's like they just kind of walk head down and it starts playing Charlie Brown. And eventually there's one scene where they do it for like the 3rd time or whatever, and in the background you actually see a dog sleeping on like a doghouse, a red doghouse in the background.
Oh, cool.
It's very funny. It's a very like dry kind of stupid show, but I love it. Jimmy was saying, did you ever read that Paul Meyer book? I wish I was able to buy it back at Comic-Con. Which Paul Meyer book? Are we talking the same Paul Meyer here? Oh, wait, no, I'm thinking, who's Paul Meyer? Am I blanking out? Maybe you mentioned it before and I didn't catch it.
Paul Meyer.
Remind me, refresh my memory on that.
I don't know what that is.
Frank, we're like halfway there. Is this starting to look like an auditorium here?
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but it's going to get there. I just have to finish the scene. Okay. So I'm going to disappear for like 2 seconds.
Okay. You want to put on Jim's
Paul Meyer's book. Yeah. I've read that. Yeah, it's good. He's talking about Paul Meyer. Oh my gosh, I have it. It's the Cottonwood Tree, I think it was called.
Cottonwood Tree. It's not ringing a bell.
Under the Cottonwood Tree, I think it was called. Yeah, it's Under the Cottonwood Tree. Am I thinking the right person here? Yeah, by Paul Meyer. Yeah, it's great. It's amazing. And you guys should check it out at underthecottonwoodtree.com. Yeah, that's really good. Vic said, "Hey, Josh. How's it going, Vic?"
Oh, hey, Vic.
Okay, so I'm going to step away for 2 seconds, and then I will come back. So, do you want me to put on a trailer, or you want to let people know more about your stuff?
You can put on a trailer.
Okay, here is a trailer. This one's called Airstream. I'm just kidding. Oh my gosh, I'm here all night. Okay, here is Wordzoid.
Well, Peter, since I'm such a big music fan, I'm going to have to go with Karen Carpenter. Oh, Stu, I'm sorry. That's the incorrect answer. Trish, what you got for us?
I'm going to go with Kim Gordon.
All right, let's check that answer. Kim Gordon. Do we have a Kim Gordon?
Yes, and that means you're our new Wordzoid champion, Trish. Dale, tell Trish what she's won. Trish, you've won a copy of 2 stories, a memoir of faith and mental illness. Handwritten, hand-drawn, and handed to you by artist and writer Joshua Kemble. But wait, that's not all. You've also won a copy of Jacob's Apartment, the story of a doomed romance. What happens when you take Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and put it in a blender with Ghost World? You get Jacob's Apartment, written and illustrated by Joshua Kemble. Trish, thank you for playing Wordzoid.
All right, great job, Trish.
I was told I was going to get a lifetime supply of paper towels.
Yeah, that Under the Cottonwood Tree, you can get it at underthecottonwoodtree.com, and that is a freaking masterpiece. Really, really well done. Very cool. Vic said, these studies I've been doing have been incredibly beneficial. Nice. What have you been studying? Watch, we see what Vic's studying, and it's like just a vast list of conspiracy theories. It's like, no, Vic, no. Don't do it. I'm kidding. I'm guessing it's art related, right? Are you familiar with the studies he's been doing?
No, I don't think so.
Neither am I.
Well, I think he's posted some on Instagram or something.
Nice.
I think he showed some before.
Old horror lighting, fashion illustration, and basic anatomical stuff. That's great. Oh, and he said, "Oh, and the flat Earth movement." Got it. Nice. Yeah. Anything exciting going on in the online sphere?
Nope.
Yeah. I'm really into Scott's new channel stuff. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like his rebrand has been really cool.
Oh yeah, he did a Patreon exclusive live stream Sunday, which I missed.
Oh, I missed this one. Wait, did I miss this one, or was that the one where he was unboxing cards? Because if so, I was there. I don't remember. Was it his first Patreon exclusive?
Yeah, it was his first one.
Okay, that was a riot, man. You should have definitely been there. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it was unboxing cards, and I let him know in the Patreon, like, oh, I missed this. I was out I was out of the house.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it was really good, Frank. You know, like, and people were coming up with all these ideas in the chats, like, oh man.
Yeah, there might be some ideas that actually come to fruition from that stream.
Okay.
I can't give away too much till we see where Corey goes with it, but
okay, yeah. I think unless Scott like privately or something, but I might still be able to watch the playback.
Nice.
The link is in the Patreon.
Nice. As long as it's playing back comments, you might be able to get a sneak peek of what potentially might actually become real.
Yeah, he said he wasn't able to show the comments because StreamYard was doing something. But I'm thinking if the live stream chat is still there,
yeah,
because sometimes it'll show and sometimes it won't. So I guess it depends.
Yeah, because like Jim, Corey, and let's see here. Yeah, Jim, Corey, Scott, and I were kind of going. Oh, and Gary, we're kind of going buck wild in the comment section. We're kind of out of control, honestly. I always feel bad for like Christopher when we're in his chats because we're just goofing off so much. And Christopher's hilarious. I think he appreciates us showing up, but it's funny when I'm in a person's chat, I'm out of control.
Yeah.
Unless Frank's there, and then I feel like Frank, you fill in quite nicely. Where like you'll bring the fun, you know.
I try.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, Frank's been my channel mod for what, like how long now? How long have I been streaming? You've been following these streams since like the very beginning.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah. When you start doing them regularly.
Yeah.
Because it was back when it was the Night Gang.
Yeah, Night Gang. Yeah. We used to have Jake show up a lot. I haven't seen Jake around. Like he did stop by a couple days ago.
Yeah, I saw him pop in a couple of times.
But if you're watching this, Jake, we miss you. Very, very fun guy. And by that, I mean he's actually a mushroom.
Yeah, I was thinking it's a mushroom.
I should have teed that up and let you just hit it. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Thomas said, not Sphere, Josh, the Atmo. Nice.
Atmos.
I forgot. That is one of the most unique things. I need to do another spicy stream, and maybe I'll do a conspiracy one. Because I feel like the political ones, I don't know if I have that in me for a little bit. It was hard getting through the last two that I did. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that one was the last one was a little.
That one in particular was just like, I don't know. Like, I got into it knowing it would be kind of annoying, and then like just completing it felt like a marathon where I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are dumb. Like, like your comment on that actually was pretty dead on. I think you said something to the extent of like, you don't take marriage advice from people with a broken marriage, and you don't take life advice from like a kid who's not experienced anything, or it was parenting advice from people who've never been parents.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of hard. Like I didn't watch the whole thing because like a lot of it was just stupid.
Yeah, it was rough. And there was a point at first where I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then after a while, I'm like, am I punching down? This is like really bad. So I don't know. The next one I do, maybe I got to find an interesting conspiracy theory debate or something.
I think that would be fun. Conspiracy theory.
I feel bad for people who have to debate people with conspiracy theories, because I think it's really it's a big challenge, because like if I'm really full bore into a conspiracy theory, I'm going to memorize like all these wacky points that are like all over the place. And so if you and I like debate and I believe a conspiracy, you're going to have to like address like 50 billion things you've never heard of that I like research every single day on my like weird, chain thing. It's a hard thing for somebody to do, because it becomes like trying to just prevent like a gish gallop, and that's tough. I don't know how anybody does it. But it's interesting to watch how people navigate that, because it's a real challenge,
Oh yeah.
Even like watching that flat earth debate where it's like, oh man, just like the frustration, the palpable frustration of people having to kind of debate this stuff, because it's like, okay, you prove one thing wrong and then it's like, boom, we're talking about a totally different thing that is a completely different discipline, and it's a challenge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and especially with things like that where if you say something, misquote something or say something wrong, like, aha, I got you. Like dude, I barely know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sense of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's like it kind of puts you on a really weird footing, because you could be like a complete expert in like biology or something, or geography, and then they'll jump to biology and you're like, well, I'm kind of big on geography but not biology, like, and then they'll be like, no, now we're going to talk about philosophy, and it's like, okay, well, cool, I know philosophy, okay, now we're going to talk about this, and it's like, oh my gosh, like how does anybody pin down, because like that's the thing. To me, a telltale sign of a conspiracy is when somebody refuses to engage, and in a really sneaky way, where it's like, well, okay, you proved that wrong, but what about this? And you're like, oh my gosh, like, you know what I mean? It's like, instead of true like disproof of something, it's kind of just like this, well, let's go here then, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're never arriving anywhere,
Oh yeah, I've had arguments like, and not with conspiracy theories, but with people, and like, well, you did this, you said this, like, okay, well, no, that's what this was about. It's about, you also said this, and then they ignore that. Well, a year ago you said, I don't I don't remember. I don't remember what I did this morning. You want me to talk about something from?
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Yeah, it's always but anyhow, I do admire like people who can do it, especially with the conspiracy thing because it's hard. It's hard. And it makes sense. I mean, like, it's not like that's something I think is wrong with the theorist in general, because, like, obviously, if you believe a really wild thing, you're gonna have a ton of knowledge on it.
Yeah.
Just in general. Like, if I'm talking to somebody who thinks the Freemasons are behind something, they've probably read a bunch more about Freemasons than I have.
Yeah.
Now, is what they read true? That's questionable. But the point is, they're going to have reasons for believing whatever they believe. So,
And they're gonna cite sources.
yeah.
Like, oh well, I've never heard of that source, and yeah.
But I always find it suspicious if somebody like requires you to read a source to get something. Like, that to me is weird when you're like, and this is just in conversations, but if somebody like tells me, well, you just need to read this source, it's like, I kind of get it, but it's like, that's a little suspicious. It's like, why can't you just kind of bullet point what you got from that source, like what you think about it, like what you read from it? You know what I mean? Because if somebody's like, oh, you just need to read this thing and then you'll get it, it's like, well, then did you get it? Because you're
Yeah.
telling me to read it. You read it. What did you get from it? I don't know. I mean, I do think it's smart to like suggest reading to people. I'm not saying like you should just placate people's ignorance or whatever, but
That actually reminds me. It's not a conspiracy, but I was I was watching these videos. So there's this guy. There's this channel called Shaneology on YouTube, and so this guy dresses up as Skeletor, and he'll review stuff as Skeletor. So he'll talk about
wait, what is it called?
Shaneology.
Oh my gosh, I'm already sold. Just
And
like
I
reviews
was
as
listening to it.
Skeletor.
It's just hilarious. And there was he was
Does he
reacting.
do like Skeletor's voice and everything?
He does everything. He wears a costume. He does it in character. He does the voice. And so I was watching a video where he was reacting to an episode of G.I. Joe, the old school G.I. Joe. And so he's kind of like making little comments about the characters and say like, oh man, Flint is really into uh, motivational speaking. And so he's kind of like saying like, guys, you got to read The Secret. And that reminded me, like, oh yeah, we talked about The Secret before. So I gotta tell this to Josh and Scott and the guys. Like,
oh man, there was an era.
Just any episode, and he's just hilarious.
There was an era where everyone I knew, well, not everyone I knew, but everyone I'd meet would be like, I read this really profound book. And you're like, don't say it. And they're like, it's called. And you're like, please don't say it. And they're like, The Secret. And you're like, shit. Now we got to talk about this nonsense. Like,
I saw it at the thrift store once, and I almost bought it because it looked cool. And like, wait a minute, The Secret. Like, I know what this is about. And I looked a little bit in the back and read, okay, yeah. But I like that it had like the wax seal stamp because I've always liked those. So like, oh, this sounds cool. And like, oh wait, never mind. I know what this is.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I think people have gotten some stuff out of it that was helpful. I think there is probably some truth to like parts of it. I think in general, a lot of things that get popular have some wisdom to them sometimes. So like, I think there's some truth, at least that I've experienced in my life, about like intention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, even the stupid panel I'm working on, if I didn't think I could do this, it's such a like ridiculous panel where I'm literally drawing like every person in the room, and it's like, if I didn't think I could do this, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it, even though like, so half of it is like the mental mind game of like, okay, thinking with intention. So I do think there's something to that. I just think it's a shame when it becomes so like, I don't know. It almost reminds me of like people who get really overtly religious with rules and laws,
Mm-hmm.
and forget like the whole. Because I think like a lot of the time that just leads people to like intense guilt. And I feel like The Secret kind of did that for a lot of people because they're like, well, I don't understand. I'm visualizing. I have the intention. It hasn't arrived yet, you know? And it's like, well, you're just not visualizing enough. It just reminds me of like stuff I grew up with where it's like, well, you're just not having faith enough. And it's like, well, you know, sometimes when somebody's sick, they need to take medicine, you know? Like it's not all about like, you know, um, like sometimes there's actions that you can do, but sometimes also people are just in a really rough situation and there's no particular solution. They just have to suffer through it, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I don't like about books like The Secret kind of ignoring, you know. There's like, yeah, I mean, it's good to have agency. It's good to like take stock of your life and have intention with everything you do, but to bear the weight of like why the universe didn't rotate itself to like make you know, your situation exactly what you were envisioning, that to me is the part that's not the weight people should be carrying, you know. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, yeah. There's
I mean, I do think it's great to take extreme responsibility for your life and stuff, but but still, you know, it's also okay to have a time where you get knocked down and you're like, yeah, that kind of sucked. You know, that sucked to get knocked down. You know,
yeah. I mean, if you learn from it, well, I'm not gonna do that again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or if it's comics, I'll just keep doing it. It's like the
That's
definition of insanity. I just repeat.
Yeah.
She's a cruel mistress, comics.
She's broken my heart many times. I'm still at it.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to read this new mini comic. That sounds really cool.
Mm-hmm. I have all my stuff scattered. Where is it? Oh, it's down there on the floor.
Vic said, if you move fast enough, you can't be wrong. And then Thomas said, I watched a movie about it, felt a little ungodly sometimes. About what?
The Secret?
Vic said, comics hath treated me well. Good for you, Vic.
Just wait, Vic. Just wait.
Just wait. She buys you flowers first, you know? Comics are like they arrive at your doorstep with a box of chocolates and a lot of romantic overtures, and the next thing you know, you're in like the Stepfather horror movies, which my wife and I binged the other day and are hilarious.
I used to watch those, yeah.
I had never seen them, and I was like, this is kind of amazing. It's like, it's awful, but it's kind of amazing.
Yeah. There was a time where me and my sister would rent videos all the time. So each Friday night we would rent like I think like 3 or 4 movies,
Mm-hmm.
and if there's one like, oh, this one has a part 2, then the next week part 2, and all those parts, all the sequels. So Stepfather was one of those that I just watched movie after movie. And then the one newer one came out a few years ago, so I watched that one. So,
Oh, the remake? Was it any good? Because we didn't even bother with that, but
it was alright. I mean, it wasn't
I feel like there was something very charming about the guy who played the stepfather. He's the guy John Locke from Lost. The actor who played John Locke, he's the original stepfather.
Yes.
And the way he played it actually kind of makes the second movie's kind of awful. The third movie's even worse. They get progressively worse, like a good bad horror movie should.
Yeah.
But the first one's actually authentically like not too bad of a movie, and it's mainly just that guy's performance, which is kind of unbelievable. He plays it really well, and it's the corniest plot, but something about his performance is like super convincing. It's very surprisingly like actually a pretty good movie. And then the sequels are just horrible, but they're fun.
Yeah, I heard there was one because they started switching out actors.
Mhm,
So there's one where they
the
kind
third
of,
one.
I think, I think the third one is someone different. So I think they tried to explain it, and oh, there's this newspaper article. This is what it used to look like, but they didn't even look like the first.
Well, it's great because in the third movie, they actually introduce it. You guys need to see the Stepfather movies; they're amazingly awful, but they're a lot of fun. The third movie, they basically recycle the second movie, so he's in an institution again,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and somehow he kills everybody and breaks out again, like, and then he somehow finds like some mobster, disbarred like plastic surgeon to like redo his face,
Yeah, I'm wrong.
and that's how they kind of, he's the same guy, but he's just a different actor. They don't really explain why his voice changes, why his height changed, you know any of that. But like a good horror movie, they're like, we couldn't get the same actor, so we're just going to cast somebody else and we'll give him plastic surgery.
Yeah, and we'll redo the second plot.
But it's funny, yeah, my wife and I like watched those 2 or 3 days ago, all three of them with her sister. We were just binge watching late at night.
You should binge watch Sleepaway Camp.
Sleepaway Camp? Ooh,
Yeah,
what's that?
the first one they're horror movies. So the first one it's a really good plot twist, and then like I think the second and third just get goofy, but it's about the main stuff is in the first one where it's these kids, they go to the sleepaway camp, and kind of like Jason.
Okay.
Well, there's someone that's starts killing campers,
Mm.
and you're seeing it from like the perspective of this girl there. So she's meeting all these people, and she's see, people are getting killed, and she's being picked on a lot, and I don't want to ruin the plot twist because that's kind of like what gets you in, and in the next one they kind of make fun of it, but the first one I think was good.
Nice.
Then they start getting like a little cheesy, and that makes them even better.
Nice.
But, yeah, and
Yeah,
they did a remake which I never saw. I didn't even bother.
Yeah, there's something charming about like the earlier iterations where they were like sincerely trying,
Yeah.
I feel like remakes, I don't know, sometimes like they miss that luster of the original. Even if the original was awful, there's like a great awfulness to them.
Yeah.
Oh man, so I'm not going to be able to finish this this panel because I got to call it pretty soon so that I can work in the morning and stream in the morning, which is what I will be doing tomorrow morning. So I think we're going to call it.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and save where I'm at. I think we got some progress done, though. It's starting to look better. Let me at least flatten this out.
Oh.
Starting to kind of take form.
Yeah, it looks
if I do
good.
this right, it's going to hide a lot of the chaos of the line work, We're not quite done. Let's see here. Just merge these and then maybe we will call it. Frank, thank you for hopping on. It felt like an old stream, like not in a bad way, like kind of like one of the old hangouts, which I kind of like.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that was one of the fun things about these live streams. So thanks for joining me on a Night Gang 2.0.
No problem.
Yeah.
What I want to do with the Truckle Crave Cast is kind of do it like that, where come on, talk about whatever topic, and we can, if there's tangents, we can go off. But we'll just do that with different people, and so I want to try it with Jim. So we'll start with a good topic, and then whatever after that. So that might be something if I do regularly, then I can have you on and hey, let's talk about
anytime, man.
this, and then go on from like okay, let's talk about whatever. What I want to do where you're not just having to shill all the time and like, oh, tell me about this project. You're like, well, let's just because you probably get tired of talking about projects all the time. So like, well, let's just talk about whatever thing I saw on the news.
Yeah, I mean, we could literally do a whole episode talking about the Stepfather trilogy. So I'm kind of excited about that. That's funny that you were familiar because I was like thinking, who's seen this movie? And like, I guess it does make sense because there was an era with like VHS tapes where you would go to like half of why you'd pick up a movie was like, ooh, this cover looks creepy, or like, or this illustration looks rad, you know.
I think it's one of the Stepfather movies. I think it might be the second one or the third one. One of my favorite lines that I like to use once in a while is in one of them where is it this guy like in a truck, like he's like a worker or something, but he's like he finds out something's going on with the stepfather, so he tries to blackmail him, but before that,
at the greenhouse, it's like a.
So I was thinking to myself, I said self, and I just thought that was just like I love it.
It is great. It is great. Yeah, it kind of reminded me. I forget. I think it was Jim or something the other day because in the third Stepfather movie, there's like a bit that he keeps calling the kid like Sport, or no, he calls him Slugger. He's like, hey there, Slugger, like that kind of thing to the kid. And that becomes like a bit later on. But it reminded me of Luhan the other day dropped the Chief bomb.
Oh, shit. Hey, Chief.
He's on a stream. He just was like, hey, Chief. And I'm like, oh, you don't do that. It's so bad. I don't know if people realize, but there's like this unspoken kind of like that's so like harsh to do to somebody. You're just like, hey there, Chief. It's just anyhow. So anyhow, appreciate you guys. You guys are great people. Thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notifications when we go live. Make sure you check out obviously Salazar Art Nation, Tarako Creative Cast, and Roll for
Tarako.
That's right. And thanks again, Frank. Great mod. That's amazing. Very cool. So find out more at Roll for Tarako. And of course, like support Frank's mini comics because he's always making comics, not excuses, which is Frank's great line. All right, guys, have a great night, and I will see you bright and early, and hopefully bushy tailed in the morning. Yeah. All right. See you guys. Bye.